transformational leadership. It seems like you all have really gotten excited about what it means to be a transformational leader. And so I want to continue this series on transformational leadership. I want to go back before I go forward because I want to make sure I don't leave anybody behind. Here is our working definition for transformational leadership. It's using our spiritual gifts and natural talents to assist others in the achievement of their God-given purpose. I'm going to say that one more time. Transformational leadership is using our spiritual gifts and natural talents to assist others in the achievement of their God-given purpose. You all know that we're celebrating our 2nd year anniversary this month. Y'all can make some noise. God has used you all to do some amazing things in this community, and it would not have happened if we were not growing in our leadership. And because I believe that God has much more that he wants us to do here through our chosen family, I wanted to make sure that we were equipped for this next season of growth and community impact. And so we learned last week that people follow us for 4 reasons. What's the first reason? People follow you because of your title. And we said that that's necessary at times because some folk aren't going to follow you because it's the right thing to do. The only reason they're going to follow you is because you write their check, or you can fire them, or you can take their iPhone. Like, some people will only follow you because of your position. That's the lowest level of leadership. We don't want people to follow us only because of our authority. Number 2, after position, was what? People will follow you because they like you. Because you have a good, what? Personality. Number 3 was what? Production. When you hit level 3, you rocking and rolling. When you hit level 3, when people start following you because you produce, because you can get the job done, because you make things better, you are getting into the next level of leadership. We don't want people to follow us just because we have a title. We don't want people to follow us just because they like us, because people aren't going to always like you. You can be doing the right thing and people may not like you. But when you hit number 3, when you're producing, it's hard to get rid of people because they know whether I like them or not, they're going to make it work. But the highest level of leadership is what? Personally. When people follow you because of what you can do for them personally. It's not about the check you write them. It's not about you can get things done. They begin to follow you because they see their life getting better. You know you're a great leader when people come to work for you and they say, you know what? When I started working here, I didn't know how to love my wife. But after I started working here and I began to learn how to lead, and I watched your example, I watched how you loved your family and you still let it work, I became a better husband because of your leadership. I became a better wife watching you. I grew in my entrepreneurial abilities because of what I learned from you. It wasn't just that you could produce, but you began to affect my life personally. And so you're at the highest level of your leadership when people follow you because every aspect of their life begins to get better. And so this week, we want to talk about what it actually takes to become that type of leader. I'm going to give you a scripture to set the context. and it's Luke 6, 12 through 13. It says, one day soon afterward, Jesus went up on a mountain top to pray. And he prayed to God all night. Everybody say all night. Here it is. Don't miss this. At daybreak, he called together all of the disciples and chose 12 of them to be apostles. Jesus prayed 24 hours before picking the people he wanted to surround himself with. Look at it, I'm not making it up. It said he went up on a mountaintop to pray, and God prayed how long? He prayed all night. Jesus prayed to God all night. God, I think I know what your purpose is for my life. Help me to surround myself with the right people. God, I know that what you've called me to do, I need other people's help. Help me pick the right person. Here's what I want you to know about leadership as we begin. I want you to know that if you're going to be a leader, you have to be seriously selective about your surroundings. If you're going to be a leader, don't miss it. You have to be seriously selective. Jesus prayed 24 hours before he selected his leaders. If you want to be a leader like Jesus, you can't allow anyone to step foot in your circle. If Jesus had to pray 24 hours to pick the right leaders, why do you feel comfortable dating somebody with no prayer? Don't act like you didn't hear that. I know you heard that. How you doing? You checked his Twitter, you checked his Facebook, you looked at his Instagram, but you didn't check with God. She was fine, and you asked all your friends, you think she fine? Hey, man, how you think she looks? You checked with all your friends, but you didn't check with your heavenly Father. And if Jesus prayed 24 hours before he selected his surroundings, how long you need to pray? Oh, that's good. Listen. That could be the reason. I don't mean it being your business or anything like that. I'm just suggesting. Brendan, I don't have video cameras at their crib, nothing like that. I just think that maybe the reason you have some of the problems that you have is because you picked without prayer. Maybe you are fighting in your marriage. It's too late now. Don't try to fix it. I mean, try to fix it, but you can't leave them. But maybe your fights is coming because you picked without prayer. You got to work it out now because God hates divorce, so you got to make it work. But maybe you picked without prayer. Maybe you argue with your boo every other day about the same thing because you picked without prayer. Maybe most of your problems are not coming from God. You fussing at him, but maybe it's because you picked without praying. Here it is. Genesis 12 will explain it better than me. Genesis 12, 1 and 4. It says, the Lord had said to Abram, leave your native country, your relatives, and your father's family, and go to the land that I will show you. Verse 4. So Abram departed as the Lord had instructed, and Lot went with him. Oh, let me try this side. The Lord said, leave your country, leave your relatives, and your father's family. So Abram departed as the Lord had instructed, and Lot went with him. I know why you're looking at me like that. You don't know who Lot is. Lot is Abram's nephew. God said, I'm about to take you to the next level. I'm about to take you to a whole nother place in your life. And I'm about to help you fulfill your God-given purpose, Abram. But for you to get to that place of purpose, you need to leave your country, you need to leave your relatives, and you need to leave your father's family. Abram left the country, but he didn't leave all his family. So if you continue to read through Genesis, you will see that most of Abram's problems came from Lot. You don't believe me. Here, in Genesis 13, Abram and Lot have a dispute over land, and they separate, and Lot moves near a city called Sodom. So the first argument that occurred after Abram tries to step foot into his purpose happens because he put a person on his journey and purpose that God told him to leave behind. Maybe you have all the problems you are having in your leadership journey. It's because you were trying to bring a person along that God told you to leave behind. Genesis 14, Lot was taken captive because of war that broke out, and Abram had to go rescue him. He had to give up what God was calling him to do so he could go fight for his nephew and bring his nephew back after he had been taken captive. All of the problems that Abram was facing came because he tried to take the wrong person on the journey. Listen, if you're going to be a leader, you have to be seriously selective. God has too much for you to do for you to allow anybody to come on that journey with you. We have to start taking our purpose seriously. We have to start taking God's plan for our life seriously. And it's not that you're a bad person. It's not that you're stuck up or anything like that. It's just that for you to accomplish what God has called you to accomplish, you have to be surrounded by certain people. And if you are not selective about your surroundings, you're going to end up allowing people in your circle that are not going to lift you up. As opposed to lifting you up, they're going to end up letting you down. So to avoid all that pain and all those problems, just pray before you pick. Just pray before you pick. So here it is. Jesus is looking for leaders. He has prayed that he can find the right people to surround himself with. So now we are in Matthew 4, 18 through 20. So he's prayed and he's about to go select his leaders. It says in verse 18 that one day as Jesus was walking along the shore of the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, also called Peter, and Andrew, throwing a net into the water, for they fished for a living. Jesus called out to them, "Come, follow me, and I will show you how to fish for people." And they left their nets, and at once they followed him. Look, Jesus said, I want you to come follow me. But his invitation comes with an expectation. Because he says, you can't follow me and keep everything you have. So he says, if you want to be a leader, if you want me to help you level up, you're invited. But I want you to fish for men. And if you're going to fish for men, you got to leave all that stuff that you've been using to catch the fish. So it says, at once they left their nets. See, here's an issue that no matter how high no matter how high your level of leadership is, we all struggle with. Because every time you have to take the next step in your leadership, don't miss it, there's something else you got to leave behind. So that's the test of leveling up. The test of leveling up is, are you willing to leave what you need to leave behind? Many of us, we want to lead. Many of us, we want the next level in life. We want to go from fishing for fish and to go with, and then we want to go fish for men. We want to take the next level. We want God to use us to do more, but the issue is we want to lead, but we don't want to let anything go. You can't lead with the same old lifestyle. You can't lead with the same old negative perspective. You can't lead with the same old fear and doubt. You can't lead with the same old nasty habits. You can't lead with the same selfishness and self-centeredness. And so what God wanted to know when he selected these leaders is, are you willing to leave your nets behind? Here's a question I want you to write down in your notes. You all remember that our homework was for us to write down what level of leadership do we think that we're on, so that at the end of this series, we can see how much we've grown. We want to know where we're at now, and then we want to pray about these issues and read about these issues that we're discussing, and then ask ourselves at the end of the series, how much have we grown? So here's what I want you to write in the notes. What nets do I need to leave? I'm serious. I'm not here for my health. I'm not get you excited. I'm here for you to really change your life so you can live the life that God has called you to live. And so for that to happen, we got to do some homework. We can't just leave excited. We've got to actually do something during the week. And so I want you to pray about, what nets do I need to leave? What's holding you back from the next level of leadership? I'll tell you what it is for me. I realized last year that my time was too tied to money. So hear me on this. I had to figure out ways where I could begin to make income that were not tied to my time. So I actually had to shift my mindset from trying to get a high salary to how can I get a person to pay me without seeing me. I had to leave the ways that I had been getting paid behind. Because if somebody's paying me for my time, that means my income is limited. Because there's only 24 hours in a day. Time is a finite resource. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how intellectual you are. It doesn't matter how much education you have. You only have 24 hours. And so if I'm tying my time to money, my money will always be limited because my time is limited. So God said, Yannik, I want you to start approaching your business differently. Stop trading your time for money and start trading what you do for value. So now when I negotiate a contract, it's not about how many hours I'm going to work. Now it's about, what is my work going to produce for you, and how much is that worth to you? Here's an example. So if I'm coming in and I'm doing leadership development for your company, then I'm not impressed because you say you're going to pay me $150 an hour. The old Yannik would have been like, that's great. Now I want to know what's going to happen after I teach leadership development. You're going to have better leaders. you're going to have better retention rates for your employees, which is going to make your company $100,000. So as opposed to paying me $100 an hour, why don't you give me a percentage of what you're going to make because of what I bring to the table? You see what I'm saying? I'm saying that I had to leave an old perspective behind to step into a higher level of purpose. And what I'm trying to suggest to you is you won't be able to step into your next level of purpose holding on to your old perspective. If you want to be a better husband, you got to let go of that old perspective that you got from your uncle. If you want to be a better wife, you got to let go of what your auntie said about don't let no man lead you. You don't listen to what no man got to say. And baby, you better save your money because you may have to leave him one day. If you really want to step into the next level anywhere in your life, then you got to leave those old perspectives behind for what Jesus has. So Jesus says, I need you to leave your net. Here it is. Nets. I told you that the Bible is a book of true stories written to teach us who Jesus is and how we should live our life. And so when you read the Bible, you have to catch the principles that are given. And so the net in this story is the lifestyle. Because Matthew 4:18 said they what? Fished for a living. So the net represented what? Their lifestyle. So Jesus says, by asking them to leave their nets, ultimately what he's telling us is you've got to be willing to leave the old lifestyle behind if you want to be a high-level leader. Now, don't miss it. It's okay to have a net. Just don't let the net have you. See, it's okay to make money. Just don't get caught up in it. Don't let the money make you. It's okay to get an education, but just don't let the education make you think you all that. See, it's okay to have a net. They weren't in sin. They weren't doing anything wrong. It's okay to have ambition. It's okay to want stuff. It's nothing wrong with that. The only thing wrong with it is when we actually get it, we're not able to give it up when God is asking us to move. A follower of Jesus understands that I make the money. The money doesn't make me. If God calls me to leave some money on the table to follow him, I'm leaving the money on the table. God, when you're a follower of Jesus, you understand that the people don't make me. And so if I've got to leave some people behind to step into my purpose, I'm willing to leave those people behind because no person is worth my purpose. I'm not my paycheck. I'm not the car that I drive. I'm not the house that I stay in. I'm not the position that I hold. I'm not the education that I have attained. I am a follower of God, which means that if God asks me to let it go, it's got to go. Some of you all know people like that. You ask them to come to Chosen every weekend, but every weekend they have something better to do. They prefer their paycheck. They rather cut their grass. They rather wash their car. They know they need God because every time they get in a predicament that they can't solve, they call you, but they refuse to really follow Jesus because that means that they got to leave some nets. Listen, I like this because Andrew and Peter knew that for them to go to the next level, they had to leave some stuff behind. See, Andrew and Peter used their nets to catch fish, but the devil was hoping he could use their nets to catch them. What do I mean by that? The devil wants you to get caught up in what you do. He wants you so caught up in chasing the next dollar or the next contract or the next female or the next male. He wants you so focused on your net that you can't go to the next level, but because even the enemy knows that for you to go to the next level, you have to be willing to make a sacrifice. So if he can catch you up in your nets, he knows that you're going to be stuck where you at forever. See, Peter and Andrew understood what I want you to understand. Peter and Andrew understood that the nets are for me to catch fish. The nets aren't meant for me to get caught up in. You need to understand that what God has given you is to be a blessing. It's to help you provide. It's to help you grow. It's to help you learn. But don't love it so much that you start getting caught up in it. Here's another question. Is there anything in your life that if God asked you to let it go, you'd argue? If it is, you caught up in your own nets. And you don't ever want to get caught up in anything other than Jesus Christ. Here it is. Not only did they follow, it says they followed immediately. It says that they dropped their nets at once. They didn't say, Lord, let me go fishing one more time. They didn't say, God, let me get this date one more time. They didn't say, God, let me work for this company one more year. Why? Because delayed obedience is disobedience. Stop making excuses. Stop putting God off. Stop pushing God away. If it's not good enough to just follow, we need to follow immediately. There's some folk we need to get out our life immediately. There's some companies that need to leave immediately. There's some places we need to stop going immediately. There's some things that we need to stop watching immediately. There's some websites we need to stop going through immediately. There's some things that are holding you back from the next level in your life, and as long as you keep making excuses, you will never be the leader God called you to be. Listen, I know you had a messed up childhood. I'm not making light of that. I know you've been through some stuff. But you can't allow what happened when you were 13 to mess up your 30s. I know you didn't have a relationship with your father. Man, I know that you are mad about that. That is a tragedy. That is terrible. But you're a father now, and you can't let the fact that you didn't have a father make you a messed up father. You've got to understand that if you want to go to the next level in your life, you will never get there until you eliminate the excuses. I like this because they were willing to let go immediately. Listen, when you ask yourself what nets you need to drop this week, once God reveals that to you, leave it immediately. Once God shows you that that person is negative and nasty and they holding you back, leave them immediately. Once God shows you that you can do better without that company that you working for, yes, they pay you good money, but if you were to do it by yourself, you can make triple that in half the time. Leave them immediately. Stop waiting for everything to be comfortable, because you won't grow in comfort. You won't grow if everything works out perfectly. Why? Because God says, I love faith. And if we don't have faith, then we will never see fruit. So God will never ask you to drop something that's not going to take a little bit of faith. So it's not supposed to make sense. It's not supposed to be easy. You're not supposed to really want to do it. The only reason you really want to do it is because God has asked you to follow him. They dropped their nets immediately, but they also did it with an expectation. Let me show you that. Jesus said, I want you to be fishers of men. He said, you catching fish now. You doing all right. It wasn't that they were lazy and lethargic. They weren't at home on their Xbox and PlayStation or Netflix and chilling. They were doing something. He said, you doing all right, but come follow me, and I'm going to show you how to fish for people. Jesus says, if you leave your nets behind, then I'm going to show you how to level up. Right now you catching fish. I'm going to show you how to catch some people. Right now you just making money. But one day I'm going to show you how to be a business. Yeah, right now you got a boo and a babe, but I'm going to show you how to be a husband and a wife. He's saying you're doing all right now, but don't stop there. You catching fish, but you could be catching people. And watch. They dropped their nets immediately because they had a healthy expectation. See, because they haven't gotten anything yet. Because he uses the future tense. He says, I what? Will. He didn't give them anything. He just said, I will. And they dropped their nets at once. The reason some of us are stuck on level 1 and level 2 leadership is because we're not willing to move on the I wills. See, you want God to give it to you, so you're motivated to move. God isn't going to give it to you so that you're motivated to move. God wants you to operate in faith. And operating in faith means I'm willing to move on the I will. God, I'm willing to leave this sorry joker even though I don't see my next possible. I'm going to move on your I will. God, I'm willing to step out my comfort zone in this job, even though I really don't know where my next step is to be. But because you told me to do it, I'm going to move on the I will. See, when you are the next level leader, you understand that you should take the step based on what God said, not because of what you see. Because anybody can take a step when they see it. Anybody can start the business when they see it. Anybody can follow God when they see it. But God is saying, I want a next level leader. And to be a next level leader, you got to be willing to step even when you don't see what you're stepping into. He says, I want you to leave everything you have, but I'm not going to give you anything yet. I want you to take this step of faith. God blesses steps of faith. Faith doesn't follow fruit. Fruit follows faith. If you want to start seeing more fruit in your life, start showing more faith. If you want God to start doing more in your life, start showing more faith. Stop waiting for God to do something before you do anything. Stop waiting for God to give before you give anything. God says, I don't bless until you step. Great leaders are able to step when they don't see anything. A great leader is willing to start something even when it doesn't make sense. If God is telling me to step, I'm going to step. If God is telling me to follow him, then I'm going to follow him. I know it may not make sense. I know it's not logical, but let me help you with that. God says that my ways are not his ways, that as high as the heavens are above the earth, so are his ways above our ways. God says it's not supposed to make sense. Please understand that there is a gap between how I think and how you think. As high as the heavens are above the earth is how much higher I think than you think. Because when I ask you to take a step, just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not anything there to step on. Because my ways are higher than your ways. You can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. Provision is going to be given. You may not know how, but that doesn't mean there's not a way. Stop judging God based on how you think. He said, I want you to take a step of faith. If you want to be the next level leader, you have to be willing to take the step of faith. Go and get the degree. Stop saying it's not going to work. Take a step of faith. Start the business. Stop saying that everybody else business is closing. Mine probably going to close too. Take the step of faith. If God is calling you to it, stop trusting in who you are and start trusting in who he is. I want you to ask yourself, what's keeping you from following Jesus? What's really keeping you from being the leader that he's called for you to be? Because he prayed before he picked. And so he saw something in Andrew and Peter and the rest of the disciples that said, you know what, if I call on them, they'll drop their nets immediately. He saw something in Andrew and Peter that said, these young men are not about excuses. If I call on them, they'll drop their nets immediately. And he also saw that they would be willing to take a step of faith. If we really want God to use us, if we really want God to do something extraordinary in our lives, we have to be willing to take a step of faith. God told Abram, he said, Abram, I want you to leave your relatives, I want you to leave your family, and I want you to go to the land that I will show you. Watch this. He said, I'm not going to show you the land. He says, I want you to go to the land I will show you. What does that mean? That means that sometimes God isn't going to show until we, what does that mean? That means that sometimes God isn't going to show until we. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to look at those areas in your life and I want you to tell God, God, I'm willing to go and I'm trusting that you will show. God, if you want me to do it, I'm willing to go and I'm going to trust that you will show. I want you to start taking that step of faith even when you may not see it all. Because that's what a dynamic leader does. A dynamic leader knows it's not supposed to make sense. I'm not looking for it to make sense. I'm looking for what God has said. And if God says it, then I can trust that he's going to do what he said he's going to do. You all, or many of you all, know what happens after this. These disciples followed Jesus for 3.5 years. And Peter in particular, not only does he go and catch fish, he preaches a sermon in the book of Acts that launches the church into one of its greatest times of growth. It says that when Peter preached, 3,000 people gave their life to Christ. Y'all missed it. God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that you could ask or think. See, when he said, "You gonna catch fish," he didn't tell Peter he was gonna be one of the greatest preachers to ever live. He just said, "You gonna catch fish." Let me help you with something. God is able to do more in your life that he may even be sharing with you. When God says that he can help you take the next level in your life, when he's able to help you be the leader that he's called and created you to be, he's saying, "I can do more than you ever thought I could do. I can make your family better than you ever thought it could be. I can make your business better than you ever thought it could be. I can make your finances even greater than you ever thought they could be. I'm able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that you can ask or think. And if you're willing to take that step of faith, I'm going to show you the fruits." Thank you for visiting our Chosen YouTube channel. I hope that you were inspired and blessed by the message. If you want to connect with us, please click the first link in the description. And if you would like to subscribe, click here and you will get all of our awesome Chosen videos. Again, thank you and go be chosen.